There are some of DHH's opinions that I disagree with, although I would say that he has disagreed with some of his own opinions over the years, like
Right.
Webpacker being one of them, I
Yeah.
think.
He talked about that a little bit about like he's like I couldn't even figure out how to use it and I wrote it. Right.
Right.
Like, oh, okay. So it wasn't just me. That's good to know.
Right, yeah.
Well, he definitely dragged his feet. Well, the Rails community in general dragged its feet embracing Webpack in general.
Yes.
And then they finally did it. And of course, now they're reversing it. But anyway.
Yeah. Well, I guess like the important thing is like you don't have to stop using Webpacker. If Webpacker works for you, then don't stop using it, right? And not everyone's going to be able to switch over to this new idea of bundling their CSS and JavaScript assets like on the fly with ES build. Like that's not going to work for a lot of people. Some people are going to have to use Parcel. Some people have to use Snowpack. But it's not a one-stop solution. And I think that's going to be very frustrating for people. And the other frustrating part is that I don't know if you've upgraded, like there is the beta of Webpacker still in beta? I don't know, but Webpacker's 6, I think 6, the latest like unreleased beta version, which has been in beta for like months. Upgrading to that is not easy. It's hard. It's very much breaking changes. So like, I feel like there's going to be a frustrating time ahead for a lot of Rails developers where they're like, okay, either I need to finally buckle in, put my big boy pants on and figure out how bundling and CSS work and JavaScript works and switch all of my stuff over to this new version and have more control over it, ES build and whatever. Or I need to like just get with it and just like keep using Webpacker. And that's just going to have to be fine.
Yeah. And, I didn't even switch to Webpacker, and I wasn't a big fan of the idea of Webpack. It struck me wrong. I'm not sure if I can explain why, but it was one of those things that just, kind of gave me the shivers, and I was like, no.
Well,
was it the config file? Because I feel like that's where you can start with the shivers.
That was part of it, yeah.
I spent maybe an hour looking at it and on my own projects, and I'm like, no, why do I need this? The asset pipeline still works. So I kept using that and my jQuery stuff. And I'm still using that to this day. And on certain things, I'm actually using a CDN to pull in JavaScript files right on views. Now that may be a no-no, but like for an HTML editor that's only used on a few form pages, I mean, that's what I'm doing as opposed to putting in any kind of a bundle or whatnot. So I kind of said, no, thank you on my own projects and avoided it like the plague, the whole Webpack situation. Yeah. But I'm very interested in what he's proposing with the image, not image maps. What the heck is it?
Source maps.
Import maps.
Import maps. Yeah,
the import maps.
Yes.
So I started looking into that and thinking about how I might be able to move to that. But.
So this will date me, but when I came into Rails, Webpacker was the way, or it had just become like I came in like the 5 era. So like for me, when I moved to an app that has the asset pipeline, I'm like, what is this? How does this work? Why is it doing this thing? What are these files? Like I did several tutorials when I was first learning Rails that had the asset pipeline, but I haven't used it in 3 years, whatever. And now all of a sudden it's making a comeback and I'm over here like, but wait, I spent all this time, this deep, long hours learning and understanding Webpacker and what it's doing and how it's built and, how to manipulate it and like what Webpack is and like how all these processes work and like, the entry points and then now they're switching back to the asset pipeline. And I'm like, dang it. Like I just spent all this time. But yeah, I agree that like we are at that place with ES build and these new era of JavaScript tools that like it's time. Like because I thought it was going to be, I thought the big thing was going to be Snowpack, which is actually built on top of ES build. So I was so close to like DJ's dropped down straight into ES build instead of going to something like Vite or Snowpack. Basically, instead of switching out Webpack for something else, he was like, let's go drop down to like the core, engine and take that, and then it becomes a choose your own adventure for a lot of other people.
But actually, I think that's one path, using ES build, but the other path is not using it at all and using the import maps and just using direct CDN. So you're not even using a bundler.
Yeah, with SkyPack. Yeah, I think that's really cool as well. And here, but
I'm still trying to wrap my head around it, but yeah.
I feel like that's good. I mean, we've talked to Fred Scott before. Was it Shot? I think I said that right. He's the creator of Snowpack and SkyPack. And SkyPack is the CDN that DHH always uses as an example for how to pull in your stuff. And I've been using that for a long time because Snowpack is its companion bundler project. And what's really cool about that is like you don't have to download the node modules on your computer. Snowpack will automatically switch in the SkyPack like CDNs for you. It's pretty cool, and I won't get into that, but there can be issues with that, right? At like certain scale, or like at some point you do want to bundle it, because if you're just sending like all this uncompressed JavaScript over the wire, like I don't know, there's points where I've run into issues with it, especially in that point if you're just relying on a CDN for everything. Like today, the faker.js repo was deleted, then recreated, and then a new version was pushed, 6.6.6, and it was an empty repo.
Yeah, that's why the lucky stiff all over again.
Right. So it's like when stuff like that happens and you're using a CDN, that's gone now, right? That there's no backwards solution for them. For the people who have it downloaded in their project, there is a way for them.
Right.
Just trade-offs. And that's all our jobs are, right? Just trade-off.
Right.
Just trade-off decider.
And that's a scary thing about development projects, especially big ones. When you get big, monolithic applications and you're dependent on a bunch of third-party things, and somebody goes and deletes the thing, you're like, oh God, now what? My business is going to go under. So that's a tightrope that's sometimes hard to walk. But you don't want to reinvent the wheel every time you sit down at a machine either. So
that's the thing, is like you can choose to download the assets from the CDN and have them locally, and then you can then place them on your own CDN account, so you'll always have a version available unless your CDN goes down. But then your app's probably going to be suffering a lot of problems anyway.
But then you got to
see, that's like the veteran approach, right? Most people don't go that deep with it. They're like, oh, CDN, we're good. Next feature.
Well, it depends. I mean, if you're a big company, then you're probably going to be doing that. The same type of company that would actually download or keep local copies of gems, like Ruby libraries, that would be the same company that would do, keep local copies of stuff as well.
But then,
I'm sure plenty of people just rely upon downloading from Ruby gems.
Well, and the kind of the catch-22 of that is the people that need to download them in case something goes bad up there are the ones that can't really afford to take over the maintenance of them if something goes bad up there. A big multinational company can just throw people at it. Okay, let's hire a guy to maintain this. But then you kind of get stuck in that catch-22 of I got to make sure I can keep it, but if I've got it, I may not be able to do anything with it. So it gets a little weird. So the fun things we got in our stocking for Christmas, what are you most excited about between the Rails and the Ruby? What things are you looking forward to using?
So for Ruby, the new debugger gem, I think it's great. I just used it. I just hooked it into VS Code and it worked great. I'm really interested in YJIT. It's pronounced YJIT for anyone wondering. My friend and buddy Jason Charnes likes to pronounce it Yijit or however it is, but that's not true. The Shopify team at RubyConf told us that's absolutely not how it's pronounced. But I'm very interested in YJIT and what that's going to do. Also in Ruby 3.1, CVARs were sped up by a lot of work from Eileen and Tenderlove. So every single Rails app will get a boost if they can upgrade to Ruby 3.1, because Rails relies heavily on CVARs in several areas. So that's really cool. In terms of Rails 7, I'm excited that there's a new way an alternative path for the CSS stuff. That at the end of the day, though, I'm so just burnt out on the idea of like bundling freaking assets in JavaScript and CSS that it's like it's just nauseating to think about. I am excited about Turbo to a relative degree. Like it's already been in there, so we've already seen it, but having it kind of be the way is cool. Just to have just to have Rails kind of come with that is pretty cool. Because I think it comes with it, right? But not installed. I think you have to run an installer.
I think so.
That may be totally false. We'll see.
Wait, which one? What are you talking about?
Turbo's in your gem file by default, isn't it? Hotwire Turbo.
I think so.
I think
so.
I think so.
Because I think it just needs to run an installer to like get it running. But I use Stimulus Reflex for a lot of things that Turbo does. You can pair them together or use them interchangeably. So I'm kind of sticking with that library for now. But what else is in Rails 7? The invert where is interesting. I was actually reading an article about why it's actually a bad solution, but that's another topic that I'm not educated enough to speak on. There's just a few niceties around stuff like that. That's, I think, pretty cool. But overall, I think I'm more excited about, the benefits of Ruby 3.1. I mean, I feel like there's several of them if you can upgrade.
Yeah, the speed boosts are what I'm really hoping are going to just hit, because we've got, when you work on the really big projects, you end up dealing a lot with speed issues. And if you can get your underlying stuff to just run faster all across the board, that relieves a lot of pressure. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. But upgrading a version of Rails in a huge distributed process is not a cakewalk. So,
the Rubies sometimes can be easier. A Ruby upgrade as opposed to
it is certainly easier than a Rails upgrade, but still not a cakewalk.
And Rails 7 is including Turbo Rails and Stimulus Rails gems by default. If you like this clip and want to watch another one, you can click right here, or if you want to watch the full video, you can click here.